She is walking down a Brooklyn alley in broad daylight. The man who has known her husband for 20 years just told her the dresses are right around the corner. Just keep walking. Right there. Keep going. She walks. The alley gets narrower. The street gets quieter. She glances through the window of a dark storefront and sees two figures moving in the shadows. Not shopping, not organizing stock, moving the way men move when they are waiting for something to arrive. She stops. Something in her chest locks up. She turns back. Jimmy is still on the sidewalk, watching her every step, waving her forward with the calm, patient smile of a man who is not concerned about the outcome because he has already arranged it. She gets in her car and drives away. That moment is 3 minutes of screen time in one of the greatest films ever made. It has been debated by Goodfellas fans for 35 years. Was Jimmy Conway really going to have Karen Hill killed? Or was it paranoia? A misread situation? A gift that got awkward? Martin Scorsese never answers the question directly. Robert De Niro never confirms it. The film leaves it open deliberately, and it haunts the ending because of that ambiguity. But here is what the film does not tell you. The real answer to this question is not in the movie. It is in the documented record. It is in Wise Guy. It is in Henry Hill's own DVD commentary. It is in the specific chain of events that led to that Brooklyn alley on that specific afternoon in 1980. And when you understand the full documented context of everything that was happening to Jimmy Burke in the months before that meeting, the question is not, was he going to kill Karen? The question is, why he thought he could get away with it and what happened to him when he failed. This is the real story of the most debated scene in Goodfellas, and every single fact in this script is verified. To understand what Jimmy Burke was thinking on that Brooklyn afternoon, you have to go back exactly 16 months, back to the 11th of December, 1978, back to JFK Airport at 3 inches the morning, back to the moment that set everything in motion. The Lufthansa heist produces $5,875,000 in untraceable cash and $875,000 in jewelry, equivalent to $28.32 million in 2024 dollars. It is the largest cash robbery in American history at that time. 6 men in ski masks, a black Ford Econoline van, 40 cartons of bills loaded from the Lufthansa vault. The entire operation runs from 3 a.m. and is over in exactly 64 minutes. No shots fired, no alarms triggered, no witnesses who can identify anyone. For approximately 48 hours, Jimmy Burke is the most successful thief alive. Then the FBI arrives. Within 3 days of the robbery, the investigation is so intense that Burke can feel it closing in. Edwards' fingerprints on the abandoned getaway van are all federal agents need to identify the entire crew. The problem is not that he left evidence. The problem is people. Too many people know. Too many mouths that can open under pressure. Too many men who have already spent time in federal prison and understand exactly what another sentence looks like. Burke does the specific arithmetic that Henry Hill later describes on the record. It was easier to put a quarter bullet in their heads, Hill says, than to give them $400,000 or $500,000 apiece. So he started eliminating everyone. The 18th of December, 1978, 7 days after the heist, Parnell Stacks Edwards is shot 5 times in the head at his girlfriend's apartment in Queens for parking the getaway van at a fire hydrant instead of destroying it. Tommy DeSimone and Angelo Sepe pull the trigger. Edwards says, "Oh no," before he dies. January 6th, 1979, 26 days after the heist, Marty Krugman, the bookmaker whose tip made the entire heist possible, disappears after being lured to a tavern in Jamaica, Queens, on the promise that his $500,000 cut is finally waiting. Henry Hill's son, Greg, age 13, later overhears his father tell Karen they chopped him up into 1,000,000 pieces. January 1979. Joe Manry and Robert Frenchie McMahon are found shot in the back of the head, execution style, sitting together in a parked car. Both men were inside the Lufthansa terminal during the robbery. Both knew everything. March 1979. Louis Kafora and his wife Joanna disappear after being lured from her parents' home in South Ozone Park. Their bodies are compacted with their custom pink Cadillac at an auto recycling yard. Nothing is ever found. By the spring of 1979, the Lufthansa crew has been reduced to almost nothing. Burke has executed or had executed nearly every person who could place him inside the conspiracy. Former federal prosecutor Edward McDonald, who personally led the investigation, later stated on the record there was never any mystery about who robbed Lufthansa. Federal agents install homing devices and electronic bugs in automobiles belonging to Burke, Sepe, and other key crew members. They are pulling in every associate of the Lucchese crew in Queens for questioning, and by the 7th of February 1979, 10 people have been subpoenaed to appear before a federal grand jury in Brooklyn. The FBI cannot yet prove Burke organized the heist, but they are getting very close, and Burke knows it. This is the world Karen Hill walks into when she goes to meet Jimmy Burke in 1980. Not to ask about dresses, to ask for help, because Henry is in jail and the family is broke, and Paulie has turned his back on them, and she has nowhere else to go. She is going to the most dangerous man in Queens at the precise moment he is in the most dangerous period of his life, and she is going to ask him for a favor. You have to understand something about Karen Hill before you understand that scene. She is not naive. Born the 16th of January, 1946. Raised in Lawrence, Long Island, daughter of Jewish parents in the Five Towns area of Nassau County. By the time she walks into that meeting, she has been married to a Lucchese associate for 15 years. She has smuggled drugs into federal prison inside her bra to support her family during Henry's sentence. She has flushed $60,000 in cocaine down her kitchen toilet when the FBI knocked on her door in April 1980. She has been present at mob parties where cocaine was consumed off every available surface. She knows exactly what world she is operating in. She also knows something Henry does not know yet. She knows that Jimmy Burke has been asking questions. How much do you know about Henry's case? What has he told the investigators? What names has he given up? These questions, in the vocabulary of the mob world Karen has lived in for 15 years, are not curiosity. They are assessment. Jimmy is not asking because he cares about Henry. He is asking because he needs to know how much of a liability Henry has become. The film shows Karen going to see Jimmy after Henry's release. Henry is out of prison. He is trying to stay clean. Paulie has cut him off. The family is financially desperate. Karen goes to Jimmy, whom she has known as a close family friend for years, and asks for help. Jimmy is sympathetic. He tells her he has some Christian Dior dresses he wants her to have a look at just around the corner. Keep walking. What the film does not show you is the specific content of their conversation before the dresses. According to the Wise Guy documentation, Jimmy is specifically interested during that meeting in the details of the investigation against Henry. What questions has Henry been asked? Who have the investigators mentioned? How much do the FBI already know? Karen tells him she does not know anything. This is either the truth or the most important lie she ever tells. Either way, it does not satisfy Burke. On the Goodfellas DVD 4K Ultra HD commentary, Henry Hill himself addresses what was waiting at the end of that alley. According to the documented account, Hill states that Jimmy was not simply going to kill Karen. He was going to kidnap her, use her as leverage to get to Henry, to force Henry into either cooperating with whatever Burke needed or to put him in a position where he could be controlled or eliminated cleanly. This is a documented distinction that changes everything about how you read that scene. Think about what kidnapping Karen means in that context. It means Burke has not yet decided to kill Henry outright. He has decided to create a situation where Henry has no options, where Karen is the instrument through which Henry is either controlled or destroyed. It is the specific calculation of a man who has been eliminating liabilities for 16 months, and who understands that killing Henry Hill outright carries risks that none of the other Lufthansa eliminations carried. Henry is not Stax Edwards. He is not Marty Krugman. Henry has relationships with the FBI. Henry has been a cooperating witness in other cases. Henry's disappearance would trigger an immediate investigation that leads directly back to Burke. Karen is the cleaner solution. But Scorsese deliberately leaves this ambiguous. And here is why that ambiguity is itself a documented choice. The street signs in that alley scene read, "Don't walk," and "One way." These are not background props. Scorsese placed them deliberately. Don't walk. You are about to die. One way. There is only one direction this ends. The camera moves with Karen at her eye level, her perspective, her growing realization. You feel the alley getting smaller because the camera makes it smaller. The men in the shadows are not shopping. The silence gets louder. Jimmy's wave is too calm, too practiced. He has done this before. Now, here is what the film never shows you. 3 things that the documented record establishes about the real version of those events. The first, Jimmy Burke was also planning to kill Henry simultaneously, not sequentially, simultaneously. According to the Wikipedia documentation of Henry Hill's account, Hill never actually met Burke at any location where Karen was present for the discussion of the Florida assignment. In real life, Burke met with Karen first and then separately sent Hill a message about traveling to Florida to handle a piece of business involving Bobby Germain's son with Anthony Stabile. Hill already knows at this point what has happened to every other person Burke sent on a last errand. He knows about Stax. He knows about Krugman. He knows about Kafora. He understands immediately that the Florida trip is not a job. It is a one-way drive. He refuses to go. The second, Karen's instincts that day are not paranoia fueled by cocaine. They are the 15-year accumulated intelligence of a woman who has spent her adult life reading rooms full of dangerous men and surviving them. She does not run from that alley because she is high. She runs because she has lived long enough in that world to understand exactly what a man looks like when he is waiting for something to arrive and what a favor looks like when it is not a favor. The film implies her cocaine use might be distorting her perception. The documented record says her perception is exactly correct. The third, and most extraordinary, Burke's plan, whatever its exact nature, is sloppy by his own standards. Every other elimination Burke organizes in the post-Lufthansa period is airtight. Stax Edwards does not see it coming. Marty Krugman drives to Queens, believing his money is waiting. The Kaforas are lured with the promise of a meeting. Nobody escapes, but Karen walks away from that alley. On the DVD commentary, a viewer notes that the men visible through the storefront window react with visible confusion when Karen turns back. They are not prepared for her to leave. The plan has a specific and significant failure point built into it. It requires Karen to keep walking, and Karen does not keep walking. Why is Burke's plan so comparatively unsophisticated? The documented answer is pressure. By the spring of 1980, Burke is operating under a level of FBI surveillance that makes precise planning significantly harder. The Brooklyn Organized Crime Strike Force, led by Edward McDonald, is closing in. McDonald's team has already confirmed at least 8 killings connected to the robbery. Burke cannot gather his most trusted people in one place without triggering surveillance. He cannot make phone calls without assuming they are monitored. He is working with reduced operational capacity at the exact moment the stakes are highest. The Karen plan, whatever its specific nature, reflects a man improvising under pressure rather than executing with the precision that defined his best work. Here is how it ends. Not as the film shows it, how it actually ends. Karen drives away from that alley in 1980. She eventually tells Henry what happened. Henry already knows about the Florida trip. He puts the 2 pieces together with the speed of a man who has spent 20 years watching Jimmy Burke do exactly this to other people. The family is finished. They have no money. They have no Paulie. They have no crew. They have an FBI investigation that is consuming everything around them, and a man they have known for 2 decades who is now calculating whether they are worth more dead or alive. Henry Hill is arrested on 6 narcotics trafficking charges on the 27th of April, 1980. The FBI and DEA take him in Nassau County while he is driving. Edward McDonald, the head of the Brooklyn Organized Crime Strike Force, arrests him as a material witness in the Lufthansa robbery. Henry is looking at a sentence that will end his life as a free man, and he knows what Jimmy is planning. He signs his cooperation agreement with the strike force on May 27th, 1980, 30 days after his arrest. On the 27th of May, 1980, Henry Hill becomes a government witness. His testimony will eventually produce 50 convictions, including Paul Verio on labor racketeering charges and Jimmy Burke on the Boston College basketball point-shaving scandal, which earns Burke 12 years in federal prison. While Burke is serving that sentence, Henry testifies that Burke murdered drug dealer Richard Eaton in 1979. Eaton's hog-tied body was discovered hanging in a meat refrigeration truck, and Burke receives an additional 20 years to life. He dies of lung cancer on the 13th of April, 1996, at the Roswell Park Cancer Institute in Buffalo, New York, aged 64. He dies in prison. He never faces a single charge for the Lufthansa heist. He never faces a charge for Marty Krugman or Louis Kafora or Stax Edwards or any of the Lufthansa aftermath murders. The only person ever convicted for the heist itself is Louis Werner, the inside man, sentenced to 15 years. He dies behind bars not for the biggest robbery in American history, but for fixing college basketball games. Karen Hill and their children enter the Witness Protection Program under new identities. They are moved across Omaha, Nebraska, Independence, Kentucky, Butte, Montana, Cincinnati, Ohio, Seattle, Washington, and Sarasota, Florida over the following years. Karen files for divorce in 1990. It is finalized in 2002. She remains under a protected identity to this day. No verified photograph of Karen Hill exists in the public domain. After 1980, she has successfully disappeared in a way that the woman in that Brooklyn alley barely escaped becoming.